Hello, Earthlings. I'm Ian.
And I'm Sven, and we are Heads in Jars, playing Nazi zombies and talking about your world.
Today's headlines have been dominated by a media titan with a bold message on free speech.
And those media titans are the Thundering Dice Brothers. Welcome, everybody. We are going to watch Piers Morgan and give you our takes on what he has to say. To be clear, guys, I don't watch Piers Morgan. I know just enough about him to know that I generally don't agree with his politics. So this will be interesting for me. We'll see how level-headed I can stay.
And I watch Piers Morgan on a regular basis, not because I think it's a worthy news show, because I find it excellent entertainment in the cesspool that can be YouTube and the online media sphere that still pretends that it's doing society a service. So that's where I'm coming from.
Like, one thing I'm going to say right away is, look how newsroomy this looks. You know, it looks like the background of Fox News or CNN or MSNBC. You know, there's the skyline and graphics and a person talking to you about things that aren't news but are opinions. It's very professional looking. Like, I'm curious to see how newsy this is, how much this actually looks like news, because it appears as though this were a newsroom. As it says.
Not to color anything with this little bit of fact, but Talk TV, which is what he is on right now, is owned by Rupert Murdoch. So do with that as you may.
Okay. All right. And with that being said, take it away, Piers.
And being uncensored, but we begin instead with Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Meta, has unveiled sweeping reforms to the world's biggest social media business, or as I would call it, a screeching 180.
And we've reached a point where it's just too many mistakes and too much censorship. The recent elections also feel like a cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech. So we're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms.
So now he's full on saying there wasn't free speech on his platform before, and that was as a result of the political climate that the previous administration fostered?
And the administration before that too with Donald Trump, and the administration before that too with Obama. Because you're basically saying that the entire history of Facebook is been censorship, and because of this particular election, because he calls it out being as a cultural shift point, this particular election is what is now led Facebook to get rid of their fact-checking department. I don't see the logic here.
So they want to have community notes like Twitter, right?
Yes.
Or X.
Yes, X.
Okay.
Well, note that his admission that the re-election of President Trump, a man he once deemed too toxic to even have an account on any of his platforms,
was facts.
I'm going to disagree.
He's toxic as shit.
He can be as toxic as he likes. I disagree with Facebook's decision to remove Donald Trump in 2020 after, was it the January 6th stuff? That's why they took down the POTUS's account. I think so. I'm not.
I really don't remember,
but I remember them doing it
because I'm not big into social media. I mean, it's funny, but I haven't been on Facebook in decades, literally, guys. And
me too.
I have a Reddit account. I have a Blue Sky account, but that's basically just tied to... Anyway, it's 100% tied to this channel, so... Yeah, I'm kind of out of the loop a little bit on social media because I get my information from different sources, better sources.
Mordeur.
I know, right? I didn't get it from my racist uncle. How fucking crazy.
now he's announced a partnership with Trump to push First Amendment rights around the whole world.
First Amendment rights around the whole world. Okay, like seriously. These people, I mean, like, you have to choose a lane. Either you're America first, or you want American hegemony all over the world, and you think that America should dominate the entire world. Yeah. I mean, like, this is an either-or shit.
You can't say that America needs to take a step back from global politics and focus inwards and take care of ourselves, the American people first, while at the same time saying that our values are so fantastic that we are going to make sure that our First Amendment speech is guaranteed everywhere. That's not really our right. to do. I agree that free speech should be a right everywhere.
Absolutely.
I don't agree that America should be the one that makes sure that everybody has it. That reeks of, we're bringing freedom to Iraq 2.0.
It's a bad idea. And then also, a culture's values cannot be superimposed on another's culture's values in any type of situation.
That's why it's very difficult to compare gun legislation in Norway and America, because the value systems are different enough.
Yeah. Or to take a more extreme case, America's restoration project of Japan after dropping the bomb. Now, we imported a lot of the Western values into Japan that they hadn't quite yet accepted, but they still retained their culture to as much effect as they could. And no amount of Westernification in this respect is going to change these cultures. So you can't take a culture that isn't ready for free speech and give them free speech. It doesn't work.
Yep. And yeah, giving this First Amendment across the board. I love the idea of the First Amendment, but I think that every nation needs to come to it by organically and by watching a good example. So be that example for the world, and it will eventually follow. If we succeed as a nation for longer than we already have, continue to be this shining city on a hill, people will want to follow it. We don't need to shove it down their throats. We just need to show them that it's better.
And then also, when people are talking about free speech and the First Amendment, these two things are not linked. These are two different concepts. The First Amendment is the First Amendment, and free speech is free speech. You can.
Well, they are linked. The First Amendment is what in our Constitution protects free speech.
Well,
so you can't say that they're different.
Well, no. Okay, but in the fundamental practice, though, I would say that they're different because the First Amendment is a sort of type of free speech. But a lot of people who use the words free speech online don't mean the First Amendment.
Yes.
Zuckerberg took a massive swipe at the, quote, legacy media and the infamous fact-checkers. Well, they've gone.
He's legacy media, isn't he?
Chris, have just been
Piers Morgan?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, he was on CNN. He's been on...
probably like ITV, because I don't think he was allowed on the BBC.
No. Yeah. He got fired from ITV. I'm pretty sure that was the Meghan Markle comment. I'm pretty sure that was on ITV.
Okay.
Yeah.
politically biased and have destroyed more trust than they've created, especially in the US. So over the next couple of months, we're going to phase in a more comprehensive community notes system.
Well, CNN's Brian Stelter said the quiet part out loud when he posted, all in line with the desires of President Trump and Trump voters, out with the fact checkers that conservatives deride, in with more permissive rules for posting conservative opinions. Now, whether you're conservative or not, what exactly is wrong with permitting conservative opinions?
Yeah, whoever wrote that tweet wrote it so badly. Like, that first part of it is correct. Loosening the, burden of truth is what this is going to do. It's going to make it easier for... And you know what? And now he's saying the quiet part aloud. What's wrong with conservative values? Well, a lot of these conservative points that are going to be allowed again on Facebook are going to be factually incorrect. Because conservatives tend to... I'm not going to say lie. I'm going to say that they tend to twist facts or truth in the way that suits them best, omit certain facts, make logical leaps that don't make sense. And, yes, actually outright lie sometimes.
A better way of saying this is that the burden of proof on from a Republican standpoint is really, really, really low, and the burden of proof on a Democratic standpoint from online is a lot higher. Especially if you're talking about, people, like Destiny. You need,
he's got to be perfect or whatever, and
because I've seen so many conversation or arguments, debates, whatever, where he is trying to make one small inroad, but by making that one inroad, he has to defend, he has to get the Republicans to be like, these 5 things in separate order that are technically connected, but you have to go with individual ones, being like, you don't think that January 6th was a peaceful protest? Oh, you do? Oh, well, do you actually think that there were FBI agents there egging the crowd. Oh, no, that they weren't, just random informers or had been FBI informers in the past and not at the present. Oh, you don't? Okay, well, what about the certification? Do you not believe in this false slate of electors? So you have to dispel all these things before you can even start talking.
Start making your point.
Yeah.
God, yeah, okay.
Fact is that fact checkers have always been biased, as Zuckerberg now admits, especially when it comes to President Trump. His decision to copy Elon Musk's community notes at a time where Musk is at the heart of a new administration and seemingly the whole of global politics is no accident. I like community notes. I think they're a good thing. Of course, this could all be a cynical ploy to appease the new masters that is just as easily reversed in 4 years' time. But I don't think it is. I think Trump's election is already reshaping our culture in seismic ways. If he gets his way, it might also be reshaping the global map, planting a US flag in Greenland and beside the Panama Canal.
Can you assure the world that as you try to get control of these areas, you are not going to use military or economic coercion?
No.
And can you tell us a little bit about...
That was so unequivocal. Like, no, I cannot ensure that. No, instantly. It's like, nope. I'm not sure if he actually knew what he was saying there, but asked.
Oh no, I think he knows exactly what he's talking about. But also, like the question itself too, I think is a little falsely framed because the military part is like you can divorce that to the economic part because as soon as he said economic, Trump's answer is always going to be no because sanctions is an economic, threat. So like it should have just been like, are you going to use the military?
I think that's basically what he said.
But no, you said military and economic. You said both, and then Trump was like, no.
He said it so fast, though. I
but I also watched this entire thing. Like him saying no to a lot of reporters, like instantly off the bat. It's kind of funny.
Greenland and beside the Panama Canal.
Can you assure the world that as you try to get control of these areas, you are not going to use military or economic coercion?
No.
And can you tell us a little bit about what your plan is? Are you going to negotiate a new treaty? Are you going to ask the Canadians to hold a vote? What is the strategy?
Yeah, I can't assure you. You're talking about Panama and Greenland. No, I can't assure you on either of those two.
So King Musk, MAGA Meta, and a US invasion of Denmark. Quite a lot to unpack with my panel.
That's putting it mildly. But just going back to the using military force for either Panama or Greenland. What the fuck? I like just what the fuck? I'm sorry. Like, I see no good reason to even entertain any of these things. I mean, like, why do we want Greenland beside? I mean, like, the U.S. already has a lot of land. This is like right now. This is on the same thing. Like, Russia invading Ukraine. Oh, we just need a little bit more land or some bullshit. No, we don't.
No, there's no humanitarian or rational reason to invade Greenland. They're not like in crisis and begging us for help. It's a sovereign territory of a sovereign nation that we're actually allied with too. So again, there's no rational reason. They're not plotting insurrection against the United States somehow. They're not plotting to, invade. I don't know. Where would they invade in America? No, where would anyone invade actually? But no, it's so absurd. It's not even laughable, unfortunately, because if this was an SNL skit, that'd be one thing. But this is real fucking life. This orange asshole is actually talking about it and making our allies seriously question the treaties that we have. Some of these defensive alliances are going to go bye-bye if he continues his rhetoric.
Yeah, very potentially.
All right, let's see what these panel assholes have to. These panel people have to say.
Joined by the host of the Part of the Problem podcast, Dave Smith, host of the Dean Obeidallah Show, Dean Obeidallah, author and host of Pivot, Kara Swisher, and the Timcar CEO, Tim Pool. So I've got to say, an absolutely stellar lineup.
Boom, Piers. No, I'm sorry. I hate the way you said that. What a stellar lineup. Stellar lineup of white douchebags.
Kick off this panel. Kara, I'll be trying to work out just how big your head may have been exploding.
Feels a little loaded, Piers. It feels a little loaded. I guess it's just me. But go ahead.
No. You can more than hold your. I could have 10 men up against you, Kara, and I'd back you every time.
True.
But I've been thinking about you because your head must.
What the hell does that mean? I could have 10 men back against you, and I'd still back you up every time. What?
I think he says he would take her over 10 dudes. 1v10, like as if this is a battle of the sexes all of a sudden. Because she said, it looks pretty loaded here, Piers.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Piers may be loaded. He's got the face for it. He probably had a couple before he got on.
Exploding, hasn't it, the last week with all that's been going on with some of your favourite people?
No, my head doesn't explode, Piers. No, I this is what they're like. I don't know if you've read my book or not, but this is what they're like.
I did, yeah.
This is exactly the way Mark always was. And he's like, I called him, he's kind of a sad weather vane. He just sort of tips and goes along depending on what's in his self-interest. And this is what he is like. He's always found it irritating that he has to have responsibility for anything or consequences anywhere in the world, and doesn't consider himself a publisher. And so he'll do what.
He's not a publisher.
Yeah, Section 230 by definition.
This is super important net like freedom kind of stuff. No, he's not a publisher. Get that out of your head.
Yeah, no social media company is a publisher. These are all platforms. I don't even know why you're like you. I don't even want to live in a world, honestly, where social media companies are publishers, because
they're held to complete different rules.
Yeah, and it would be impossible. And if you want to, if anyone's trying to talk about free speech and shit like that, then you definitely can't have social media as a publisher, because they'll be censoring many things, because like, this is factually wrong. You can't do this. We'll get sued. No, these companies, if you did that, would die. No, they would shut up. There has
to be a protection that separates the opinions of the masses from the person that hosts it a little bit. I mean, because no matter. And you can flip this very, very easily on the other side, too. If you are under an authoritarian rule and you are the dissenting opinion, you want the freedom. No, if the rule doesn't exist that protects the person that hosts your opinion but doesn't necessarily share it, then there's no way for you to share your opinion.
Yeah.
Like conservatives are the part of the ones that like this the most, because they think that they're being marginalized, because they have to have victim complexes. I want to see how many victim complexes we can call out here, because I guarantee you there will be several.
Oh, yes.
Of how they're the marginalized ones. All these white people are super marginalized. Yes.
Whatever it takes at whatever time it takes. So I find him disloyal to almost everyone, including.
I have to put. Why do you keep calling them white?
Because this is the least. Because they started by talking about she feels marginalized by being the only woman on this panel, and then he says, no, I back you against 10 men.
Oh, yeah,
so I'm like, okay, well, let's take this a step further. You're all a bunch of privileged white people, too, so you're even less actually concerned with censorship. You're the least oppressed demographic in America, conservative white people. How oppressed are you? That's what I was going with.
Okay. I disagree with the framing, especially because in this it doesn't seem relevant, but whatever.
Back when he threw Trump off the platform, I just don't trust him with anything. And in 4 years' time, he'll switch again if it's in his best interests, financial interests, really.
I mean, he wouldn't be the first media titan to go where the power and money wind blows. But on the detail of his statement yesterday, which was pretty extraordinary. Reversal.
Well, it was also it was a little mendacious on a number of things. By the way, there are a lot of conservative fact checkers in that fact checking situation. And many years ago, he talked about how AI was going to solve this. And now it's community notes that's going to solve this. It's a multifaceted problem. And the real issue is the site is built for malevolent players, and sometimes government, sometimes people, to do whatever it want on the system. It's a system that's impossible to fact check. It's a system that has no guardrails on it, and it's a system in which he uses the First Amendment when it suits him. I actually don't think he's read it, even though it's short and first. Governments shall make no law. Like, it doesn't say Facebook shall make no law. He makes rules and then he breaks them. And he says, with Alex Jones, he did that with all kinds of things. And then he reverses himself. Holocaust
and it actually doesn't say governments shall make no law. It shall say Congress shall make no law. Get your words straight too, miss. Okay, but whatever.
Credibility -1.
Right.
Good example. He told me in an interview, and we got, I was like, well, he said Holocaust deniers don't mean to lie. And I said, well, that's kind of the definition of a Holocaust denier. But And then 2 years later,
Holocaust deniers don't mean to lie. Like,
It depends what level of Holocaust denier they are. Are they Holocaust deniers in the respect that they grew up in a nation that doesn't value any kind of education and their only facts they get are from the government? Like, let's say you grew up in Afghanistan. You could probably deny the Holocaust while completely believing that the Holocaust was made up, because you have no opportunity to have information to the contrary. You've only been fed that. So on one point you can say, yes, they don't mean to lie. On the other hand, we're talking about a tiny subset. Most people who are Holocaust deniers, who are on Facebook, to be clear, have access to the truth and are doing it on purpose. To lie, to inflame, to rage bait.
yeah. I mean, ignorance is no excuse. Especially, I mean, if you're talking about any person in the first world,
like you're on the internet,
who has access to the internet. If you have all these tools and you're still unconvinced and you haven't read or done any research and you're just listening to random people.
Denying the Holocaust is right up there with denying the moon landings and thinking that the Earth is flat. It's categorically false and provably so.
Though I would give people more, I'd give more, like, if this was a gold, silver, bronze thing, Holocaust denialism definitely gets gold. Because it's the hardest one to deny in my mind. But I would say flat Earth then probably is going to be bronze, and then silver I'll take
the moon landing,
because people have a hard time conceptualizing that we went to the moon, and then they come up with a really fun rationalizations about like why we haven't gone back to the moon, because like we've lost the technology. Like I've heard Timmy Boy on the right say that multiple times.
We've lost the technology.
Yeah.
Yes, while he's sitting there behind a computer that has more technology than the entire space program contained in 1969.
Yeah.
You fool.
or reversed it. And then who knows if he's going to, now he seems to have reversed it again. And so I don't think he has any particular principles or values.
I don't know why these people are surprised by this.
Yeah. He's a CEO.
Yes.
The only obligation he has is to his shareholders. Like, why does anyone take any CEO? I mean, like, Elon, actually, in this respect, you can actually give him credit for with X, because at least he doesn't have shareholders. He can just be like, no, fuck it, whatever I want to do, I will do.
Yeah.
And you can sort of infer that he's basically believing that he's trying to do right. But yeah, with Meta and all the other ones, no, yeah, they're just
It's
money.
funny, they're holding this CEO's feet to the fire based off of flip-flopping and being a weather vane for the market and doing whatever makes his company the most money. I'd like to see this same logic applied to the CEO of General Motors.
Yes.
The CEO of Pfizer. The CEO of United Health. If he were still alive.
that are lasting. He can do whatever he wants because he's king of that.
Well, yeah, to a point, I guess he can. Dave Smith, what did you make of this?
He's king of that site. Piers, he can't be fired ever. His children can't be fired. Let me just be clear.
No, I'm sorry. He has a board of directors. There is a way to fire Mark Zuckerberg. No one is actually untouchable. Like, what was that statement?
What claw? And his children as well. Like, and even if it were true, it's a private company. Like, not private company, but it's a company. Like, this person owns a majority shareholder. He's a CEO. I want this logic on different CEOs. What, this is so absurd. Like, the owner of Ford is still a Ford. What's your point?
Yeah, I don't get it either.
He has total control of that site.
But you're talking to the wrong accent when it comes to kings. We like our kings. We like kings.
I know, you have a better king. I'd rather have Prince Charles running that thing.
We believe in maniacal power. So,
yeah.
My head's exploding. What does that even mean? Why would you want Prince Charles running Facebook? Yeah, sorry. I'm interrupting this too much. People are going to lose their minds listening to me and not listen to this. But goddamn.
Oh, no, come on. For every 1 minute of play, we got 3 minutes of commentary, basically.
Dave Smith, I mean, I found it jaw-dropping, to be honest, notwithstanding a lot of what Cara just said, that she wasn't remotely surprised by the wind blowing. But to actually see him, trot down to Mar-a-Lago to kiss the Trump ring, as it was put, and to then do really what turned out to be half mea culpa and half screeching U-turn over pretty much everything that Facebook had stood for was pretty spectacular.
Facebook didn't stand for anything. Like, Facebook was a stolen idea to rate how hot people were initially, and it's turned into and it piggybacked off of MySpace, just like Reddit piggybacked off of Dig, like, and it's changed itself a bunch of times. What would it used to be? I mean, yeah, go back to its roots. Let's be an originalist.
Yeah.
It's all about how hot your friends are in college.
Yeah, how dare a company change its attitude and its momentum, because that's just I mean, like, you know, honestly, by the same logic, I am pissed off at Elon Musk for when he first stole Tesla, you know, looking at whether hydrogen or batteries would be the thing. He abandoned hydrogen and went for batteries. Oh, you know, that is harumph.
Yes, now because of him, we don't have hydrogen technology everywhere.
Yeah, selfish pricks.
You see the breakdown of logic there, idiots? God damn.
Watch.
Yeah, it was incredible. And, you know, I want to be clear. I think this is a really positive thing. I don't believe in Yeah, so like, I kind of want to be happy about it, but all of my instincts are just to rip the guy, because especially because...
Oh, are you exposing your internal biases to us?
Yes.
Are you telling us exactly that doesn't matter what they're saying, you want to disagree with them because your feelings?
Yes.
Aw, little snowflake. Melting on the sidewalk.
He's a libertarian.
So...
No, the snowflake libertarian synonyms.
Because he doesn't acknowledge any... There's no acknowledgement that he did something wrong or that he's changed his mind on this. It's kind of this just vague, like, oh, I created this to give people a voice. And a lot of people think this stuff went too far. And, like, yes, it reminds me of, you know, I debated Chris Cuomo last year, and it reminds me of him coming out and saying, like, hey, you guys, you know, this ivermectin stuff isn't horse dewormer, it turns out.
It is horse dewormer. It literally is used on horses as a dewormer. So don't say it's not a horse dewormer. And if it had any medical application, why are they so hung up on ivermectin? Like, why are they so hot and bothered? Like, yes, I could have gone to my veterinarian and injected this and now all would have been saved.
This is part of the COVID PTSD, where, like specifically in ivermectin, it does have human uses, but obviously not for COVID. And the media went a little apeshit on it and kind of, as you said, like just called it a horse dewormer as like a thing after Joe Rogan like said that his doctor prescribed it from him. And this plays into multiple different things, like yeah, when Dave was on the PBD podcast, which is, I'm assuming, what he's talking about with Chris Cuomo. I think Candace Owens might have also been on that one, or I might be thinking about a separate panel. But then, yeah, talking about that. But that interview is also like, or that panel is extremely weak, because Chris just basically media's his way out of every question, and he's just being the same Chris Cuomo, but with a more right-leaning slant. So I don't like it doesn't really matter for like any type of argument, because when ivermectin was becoming a hot issue, you know, you had COVID raging and shit like that, and a lot of people were desperate for a lot of answers, and there weren't a lot of answers. So when ivermectin started a thing, people just kind of jumped on it, like, oh my god, maybe this is like the new miracle cure. And because of the media's reaction, the counter reaction on the right ecosphere, because of like the media's reaction, like Facebook's and other reactions, like, no, ivermectin isn't thing. They saw it as a huge government conspiracy to stop people from speaking on the truth. And this is also bundled with a host of other like COVID related issues that catapulted these things higher and higher. But like ivermectin is just one rung on this retardedly high ladder.
Okay.
It's people medicine, and you're like, yeah, that's what we were all saying at the time, in my world at least, and we got a lot of abuse for that. At one point, I do think it's worth just pointing out what happened over these years, even though I think there's a very positive change. You know, I was just playing on my show the other day, a video clip, I'm sure all of you guys have seen it, but Mark Zuckerberg blatantly admitted that both Facebook and the FBI interfered in the 2020 election on the Joe Rogan Experience. And, for all of the news coverage, and to some degree rightfully so, over the last 4 years about January 6th, about some of Trump's claims of the election that him and his lawyers were really never able to demonstrate at all. But how about that admission that the FBI came and told Facebook, be prepared for a Russian dump that's coming soon. And then when the laptop came out, you have 50 plus intelligence officers signing on to this letter saying that this is the Russian disinformation. And he admitted to censoring people for that. This is like blatant election interference by the FBI.
But you mean he's saying that because the FBI didn't want Russia meddling in the election, that was election interference?
Specifically, yes, but in the specific case of the Hunter Biden laptop story, because they've linked this story in a very interesting way, where the FBI comes to the social media companies like, all right, guys, it's election time. We're worried about Russian interference. Be on the lookout for anything kind of, out of the ordinary, because, we don't know what they're going to throw at us. Enter in the New York Post's story with the Hunter Biden laptop, and that being shut down on Facebook, where like the New York Post's, I think it was the New York Post,
because the New York Post is a tabloid trash rag.
Well, yeah, but
it's not journalism.
But their Facebook account was suspended for 2 weeks or something like that during the election, so that stifled the ability of that news article to kind of go around. So because of that, there's an interesting theory on the right that Facebook and the government were all colluding to make sure that this story didn't get out to harm Joe Biden's election campaign. So that's kind of like what they're talking about. And the government didn't tell them, you have to do this or we'll kill you or fine you or anything. This was all done internally. Like, Facebook made the decision by itself.
Which it is free to do as a company and not a governmental organization.
Yeah, and if you look at the whole story and the timeline and everything, you can just just take a step back and don't think about your own political biases and stuff like that. Hunter Biden leaves a laptop at a repair shop for longer than for enough time that the ownership then contractually went to the repair shop owner. That person then looked at it and took it to I assume the Washington Post, and then the Washington Post
did data retrieval.
Data retrieval, and then and then the government comes in, so they've just linked it all together. It's a series of events that, taken apart, don't mean anything. Strung together, don't actually mean anything either. But when you weave in the narrative that you want to weave in, it's government conspiracy all over the place.
Making shit up again.
Pretty much.
And one of the biggest tech companies out there. I mean, I would think if you're going to reverse that, it would also come along with an apology and some admission of what you were a part of. He says he created the site to give people a voice.
Yeah, but he doesn't want Russian. It's his company. He doesn't want Russian bots telling you how to think, because clearly you already have that mainlined into your brain. That's his. Why should he apologize to you for this? For hurting for making you believe Russian or not allowing you to see Russian propaganda? Go on RT. It's not fucking banned in America. Just read that and get your shit from there.
Well, I think also that they're pissed off at the fact that, the Hunter Biden story at least isn't Russian propaganda.
But it isn't. But it isn't what such a non-issue that
I
they
agree.
need to get over it.
It isn't what they think it is, and it has no impact on and. They'll refer to oh yeah, there's an email chain where the big guy, where you take $5 million from one thing, and then $4 million gets transferred from here, and then another, and then from to the next shell company, it's $2 million, and then from the next shell company, it's $1 million, and then that $1 million gets paid out to one of the Bidens, and one the daughter and shit like that, and then the daughter takes a portion of that and then sends it to Joe Biden. It's that type of money trail where they've linked it onto 6 or 7 different corporations, thinking that this is how the corruption is going, and that's how and that is proof that the big guy in the email chain is referenced to Joe Biden.
robbed your fellow Americans of their voice in a very important, crucial point in American history.
No, they took Russia's voice away in an American election. That's what they did. Don't say Americans. You already said it was Russian bots and Russian interference. So it's not taking Americans' voice away. It's taking Russian propaganda away. Would you have been mad that the Americans didn't allow Goebbels propaganda in America during World War II? Would you have been shocked by that?
Well, actually, I'm not so sure about.
No, if they had
no.
Plenty of rules that said you could not have that kind of stuff in America. There were, sedition acts that were brought back. Yeah, there's plenty of acts against that. And I wonder if he would have been one of those assholes. I'm not saying he would have supported Hitler, but I'm not saying it.
Look, I was a New York Post columnist at the time that all went down with their exclusive on Hunter Biden's laptop, which turned out to be...
New York Post columnist again? So he's seriously, like, shit rag, like toilet paper, tabloid trash columnist.
Well, there's a reason why after his, like, firing from ITV, or, like, because of the Meghan Markle comment, I'm pretty sure Jeremy Clarkson says, like, yeah, if you stay I know you've been fired, but if you want a job, you can be my punching bag.
That's right, yeah.
Completely genuine story, and certainly wasn't Russian disinformation. And the way that all played out was quite extraordinary and pretty terrifying to see that the New York Post...
Well, although, guys, come on. Look, tech companies make mistakes the way publishing companies make mistakes.
But that wasn't a mistake, Cara, was it? I mean, it wasn't a...
Well, no,
they actually... Hang on. Hang on, my point. They actually banned the New York Post X account completely. Completely.
Yes, they did.
The X account? What do you? So now you're talking about Twitter? So a completely separate entity? Then
so now it's Elon Musk who's the bad
guy. This would be before Musk bought it.
Oh, okay.
So this would be Jack Dorsey. Actually, it might have been the X account.
We're calling it X, not Twitter.
Well, yeah, that's because everyone retroactively calls things like you don't call Apple Macintosh anymore.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, no, you don't.
Yeah, I say your Mac. I don't say your Apple computer.
Yeah, but you never say Macintosh.
Yeah, no, because Mac is just a shortcut for Macintosh. What do you think Mac is meant to mean?
This is an evolution of language, and I think you know exactly what I mean. It moves forward. It doesn't move in a... Oh, I just hit your watch. I was like, what the fuck was that? It doesn't move in a backward thing.
Yeah.
We're being a little pedantic here.
Us? Never.
Take down their true story. I mean, that is the most blatant attack on free speech I've ever seen.
It's not free speech. It's not a government institution.
Wow, she's making my point.
Do that. Disney didn't put out a movie in China because the Chinese.
It doesn't make it right, though, does it?
Of course not, but it's you're equating Facebook. You're equating Facebook or Twitter with the government. It is not a public square.
No, I'm not.
To be very clear, I certainly was not. Listen, I was not equating Facebook and...
You're asking him to apologize.
It is reasonable to point out that a lot of these big tech companies were under duress, really, since Donald Trump won in 2016. All
under duress?
Yeah.
While they're making, like, money hand over fist?
Yeah, like what type of duress... Yeah, what type of stress are they under right now? Or back then? A government employee emailing someone on their end being like, hey, we found this post. It might violate your... terms of service, check into it maybe, and then find out that like more than 90% of all those government requests were not even like Twitter and Facebook didn't deem it actionable, so they didn't take any action. So like, what duress are we talking about, guys, here?
Yeah. Stop lying.
All the heads were hauled in front of Congress and threatened up and down if they didn't get this misinformation problem under control.
Wait, hang on. You mean Congress is interested in where misinformation is coming and what people may be doing to moderate it? I mean, that seems like the government's job, kind of.
Yeah.
How odd. Yeah. And did it change anything? Did Zuckerberg suddenly turn around and change his content moderation policy because of the congressional hearings? Or is he doing it now because... there's a different kind of pressure from a different group of people that are more crazy and more likely to hurt you? Now, I'm obviously being a bit hyperbolic, but...
yeah, hard to say.
Is the claim here that those intelligence officers made a mistake and really thought this was Russian disinformation?
Here's what I'm saying,
and then realized it was Hunter Biden's laptop?
Our government does...
Shut up, Tim.
Go ahead.
Tim, no, let Cara finish her point, then I'll bring you in, Tim.
the government should constantly be talking to lots of companies because there are disinformation campaigns from Iran, Russia.
Yes.
You can't pretend that China's not all up in our grill. You just can't. You just can't. And there should be discussions between government and companies. They're going to occur. By the way, they've been occurring since the beginning of time, way back when. Go watch Oppenheimer. There's discussions happening all the time on all levels between companies. The question is, what is pressure and what is important discussions that these companies, because they are at the nexus of all these information systems, should be having, and what are the guardrails against government overreaching? I am all for stopping government overreach. I did a great interview with Edward Snowden about this issue. Perhaps the way he did it wasn't right, but what the government was doing was wrong. They fixed it. There should be guardrails around these things. The question is how it's done. But what happens is there's a fever dream on the left and a fever dream on the right of what's occurring, and it's a little less nefarious. I think that Facebook, unfortunately, occupies a far too important role in news distribution as a kind of a monopoly, and that's the problem we have going forward. It's a
maybe like social media monopoly news distribution. Yeah, better way of saying it.
People forgetting that what is posted on Facebook isn't actually like fact-check journalism. It can be anything. It could be your parents' opinion, it can be your cousin's opinion, and it can be Joe Blow's opinion. It doesn't have to be news. No part of it can be news. If you're using Facebook as a news site, you should take a step back and just try to read some more actual news. Just go on, I don't know, read the headlines of BBC. Screw if you don't want an American legacy publisher. Just read that at least to get some kind of perspective on what journalism kind of looks like and what you're reading on Facebook.
Yeah.
Private company that's determining what everybody sees, and they're going to not just make mistakes. We're at the behest of Mark Zuckerberg's obviously incompetent ability to decide what's right and wrong. Nor should he, by the way.
Let me bring Tim in. You've been waiting patiently. Tim, your response.
Free speech is a principle. When we say that Facebook, X, Twitter, whatever platform is silencing free speech, we are not talking about the First Amendment. The First Amendment protects multiple rights, of which one of those is free speech. So this constant conflation of a private company isn't violating your First Amendment. I'm not going to bring up the First Amendment. I'm going to talk about, I'm going to go on a platform, I'm going to express my ideas and share news, and if they silence me, they are violating my free speech. Now, more importantly, this argument about, you mentioned there's a fever dream on the left and the right. I want to make one thing clear. Mark Zuckerberg coming out and saying that now we're going to have more free speech or whatever it is he's trying to say, this is not a pendulum swing. This is not the weather vane. Certainly, I do believe the man is just bending the knee to whatever power structure he sees. But if we were actually going to see a pendulum swing in the other direction, they would keep the fact-checking program, ban the liberal news outlets, and only allow conservative outlets to fact-check posts on Facebook.
So he thinks the pendulum he's talking about it banned all conservative news outlets. So he's saying that currently all conservative news outlets have been banned on Facebook because that's what the other side of the pendulum that he's describing means for the liberal side. So there's zero conservative voices. Have you also he's probably definitely not considered that some of the conservative news sources he's talking about aren't factually correct, like himself.
No, yeah, they have a interesting idea that all these social media companies, up until recently, around when Elon bought Twitter, had a massive disproportionate thumb on conservative voices in media. Not allowing people to see their posts, limiting types of content on that side, whilst at the same time amplifying the left-wing media and the left-wing narrative to such a degree that even the small trickle of right-wing people who were on there who could still speak get drowned out. That's basically how they kind of view.
So we're back to them being the victims again.
Yes.
When you look at all sides, when you look at ground news, the majority of U.S. fact checkers had a liberal bias and only one.
A liberal bias. Facts generally have a liberal bias. It's been well established. It's because facts are more used by people on the left than on the right. Feelings are more used by the people on the right. In arguments.
Daily Caller was considered to be conservative-leaning. And when numerous outlets on the right made attempts to get access through Pointer to the fact-checking system, they were denied that. So now, once again, what do we see? Real quick, to another point, back to the First Amendment issue, I just want to add, the government had backdoors into X and Facebook where we actually got to click the link and go to the login portal for the federal government to go into Facebook to flag posts. And there was an instance where if you said the name Eric Charamella on YouTube or Facebook, your post would be inexplicably deleted. And everybody knew that was happening. And this is Real Clear Politics that it broke the reporting on Eric Charamella. So what we're looking at since Elon took over Twitter and turned it into X, we have consistently seen a dominant liberal or Democrat party bias on these platforms. And when the problem is, quote unquote, resolved, you get neutrality. There's been no circumstance where we have seen a right bias or a conservative bias or a pendulum swing in the other direction. So Mark Zuckerberg right now is declaring neutrality. He's not actually swearing fealty or kissing the pinky ring of Trump.
Well, fascinating.
Are you kidding me?
Dean, over to you.
I mean, the idea that what Mark Zuckerberg is doing is part of the plutocracy. It is part of the oligarchy. They're going down there and giving $1 million each to Donald Trump.
Absolutely.
Tim Cook,
Indeed.
Jim Bezos, Jeff Bezos. You have Elon Musk, who's been the biggest oligarch of all. They are bending the knee. They're doing whatever he wants. And I wish that on the left and the right, we could put aside politics and say we need a system where big money is taken out and the power is given back to people, to us. And then we can fight fairly on the issues without oligarchs spending millions and millions of dollars to corrupt our elections. And on the right, you don't like George Soros? Okay, let's ban his money as well. I'm fine with that. But Mark Zuckerberg, what he's doing is bending the knee because he is fearful. As Donald Trump said yesterday, maybe he's afraid because I threatened to put him in jail for his entire life. That's the big to go protect our First Amendment. The guy who threatens Mark Zuckerberg with jail for the rest of his life. A guy who threatened ABC and CBS. A man who threatened Donald Trump Saturday Night Live. He wanted the comedy show canceled. So he is not a bastion of free speech.
No, definitely not.
No, he's definitely not a bastion of free speech. But I just got it that the set design on the top left-hand corner.
Whoops.
Is slightly. It's kind of funny. I like it.
A strongman leader, a potential dictator, and they fear him, but they're about making money. So Mark Zuckerberg now is changing these rules and putting Dana White Trump's big buddy, on the board to make Trump happy. Leave him alone so he can make more money. Same thing with Bezos. Same thing with Cook. The list goes on. We live in an oligarchy, a plutocracy, to be accurate. And I don't know why on the right you're not angry like I am about the wealthy controlling our collective destiny as a people. Let's get their money out and we can fight over the issues. I'm all for that.
This is the funny thing about what left and right really means. I completely agree. Billionaires, millionaires dumping tons of money to manipulate is a bad thing. What I'm talking to specifically, when I'm saying kissing the pink ring, if you want to make the argument that they're donating money to his his inauguration and things like that, let's have that conversation. But Donald Trump, if this
but have that conversation. There's no real conversation to have. It's just, again, it's a fact. This money has been deposited into Trump's coffers. There's no conversation to have, conversation with why they're doing it, what it means. Well, yeah, they're doing it for obvious reasons, to gain favor with Trump, because money talks.
Yeah.
There's no conversation to have, Tim. And don't say we can have that conversation, but no, that's such a shitty, I'm going to use huge, massive air quotes so you can't see, debate tactic.
Mark Zuckerberg trying to placate or please Trump, and he's settling with, I will let people speak. That's Trump accepting neutrality. If Zuckerberg
won't let people speak, it's the fact checking that kept lunatics away is gone.
Yeah.
Was actually going to try and play this game that we had seen over the past 8 years or longer with Facebook, he'd say, you know what, we're going to bring on 10 new fact checkers, the Daily Wire, Breitbart, National Review, and we're going to give them preference and we're going to remove PolitiFact and Pointer's authority. But that's not what he's doing. He's saying, you can finally post again, which it's funny because when he basically downranked politics, he nuked his own platform and it made most podcasters abandon the platform as a place where